sorry. Good morning. Good morning. I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Jefferson County Public Utility District Number 1 Board of Commissioners. It is Tuesday, December 19th, 2023 at 10 a.m. The first order of business is determining that we have a quorum of the Board of Commissioners. I am Kenneth Collins, Commissioner for District 2, and for the moment, Chairman of the Board.
I'm Jeff Randall, Commissioner for District 1.
Dan Tupper, Commissioner for District 3.
So we have a quorum. I'll now call the meeting to order. Jefferson PUD is offering both virtual online meetings as well as in-person meetings unless advance notice is provided. Online participant audio will be muted upon entry. Please unmute at the appropriate time to speak if you're calling in. Use *6 to mute and unmute and *9 to indicate your desire to speak. The next item on the agenda for our special meeting this morning is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes?
Yeah, Ken, I was going to ask for Kevin to give a little manager's report on 2 items. One, the Board of Commissioners meeting you attended yesterday, and maybe an introduction of Joy, who's in the room.
I was going to add
here
Joy.
Today. And either one of those are decision-making items or just
Points of information.
So
that's fine. Sounds good.
So I'll make the motion to accept the agenda as amended.
And I'll second that.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion to accept the agenda as amended, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. The amended agenda has been approved. So why don't we have Kevin, if you don't mind, to begin with introducing our new assistant manager and talking a little bit about the Board of Commissioners meeting.
Okay. First, I would like to introduce everyone to Joy. This is her first day here, first board meeting. Everything worked out really well. We're very grateful she's here. I hope everybody takes a minute in the next couple days and weeks to get acquainted with her. For myself, thank you very much. Melanie?
Joy, do you want to talk a little bit about just kind of your background?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to do that. Excuse me. Yeah. Joy Lichty. So happy to be here. I think I'm in my 3rd hour here with Jefferson. But I've already met, I'd say, close to a dozen of our great employees. And I can't tell you how grateful I am just with the welcoming spirit here. And especially, at this time of year. So my family and I are here in town for the whole week, and my kids are out of school this week. So they're just enjoying strolling the beaches of this beautiful part of the Northwest. But I get to be here today. My background, I most recently have come from Tacoma Power, where I was a power utility manager for the last 2 years, and building out a energy trading group there. So did a lot of hiring, just a lot of team building and development there. Prior to that, I was with Seattle City Light for 11 years as power management director was my role when I did leave City Light in 2021. I did a little stint in between Seattle and Tacoma as a interim executive director for a small local chamber of commerce. So done a little bit there. And then I worked for 2 other Pacific Northwest utilities prior to City Light, Snohomish County PUD, you might have heard of, and also Puget Sound Energy, who you might also have heard of. And in fact, I started my career in the power utility sector back in 1995, working for Puget Power. This was before they merged with a gas company and before they became Puget Sound Energy. And in fact, it was I think it was December of 1995. I was assigned back then, employees were, when big storms would roll through the region, you'd get assigned to a storm team. And my storm duty was damage assessment. And so I rode along with one of our engineers out here in Jefferson County and looked for the problems on the feeders and along the distribution network out here. So it's just kind of really interesting, full circle, feel like I'm back, sort of, you know, back in the region where I kind of first started out in a way. So anyway, thank you for being so welcoming, and I probably spoke way too long, but
We're really happy to have you on board. You know, the recruitment for this position took several months, as you know. And we're really happy to have selected you and just want to extend a warm welcome from our staff.
appreciate it.
And I don't know how long you were in that application recruitment process, but thank you for sticking with it, because some of us, it's felt like it was never going to end.
Well, having served on the selection committee, we talked to quite a number of very talented, highly qualified people, and you rose to the top. So we are very happy to have you here. And again, thank you for your patience. As a committee member, it felt like a long process for us too.
Yeah, welcome, Joy. One quick thing for the public is Joy is going to hold the position of Assistant General Manager as well. That's the position she's here to take.
Thanks for that clarification.
Thank you. So again, we hope that you'll have a long and happy experience with Jefferson PUD, and wish you success in finding the right place for your family. It is a beautiful area, albeit an expensive area. So anyway, welcome to the Jefferson PUD family.
Thank you.
Mr. Street, would you care to give us a summary of your meeting with the county commissioners?
So the PUD was there really, we've attended several of the meetings from the people in Brennan. The specific ask yesterday was for the county commissioners to support and help fund a restoration project on the Dosey Wallops downstream in the flats. They're doing the study is to come up with options and better ways to control and revitalize the fish habitat. And the county commission was given a small presentation. A lot of this has been presented to the people in the Brennan area. The county commissioners were very supportive. This is something that the PUD is involved with because of once the FEMA work is done, this will be used to springboard projects such as some new consolidation in the water side of things, and with the possible expansion of the sewer system. So it was a good meeting. They are going to continue these meetings in Brennan. We will continue to go through a different venues, but this is something that the next year will take up part of not only my time, but the commissioner's time as well.
Yeah, and Kevin alluded to the state sewer system down there, state park system, and how the county might integrate that into the Brennan sub area there. We have a couple of water systems there. That's the interest that we're trying to track of what's going to happen down there, so we can plan for that area for our water systems at a minimum. And then if the sewer if that sewer project down there gets legs and becomes a thing, then we'll be involved with that more than likely as well.
Okay, and Kevin, you mentioned that the county was looking for support from the PUD. Are they, at this point, are they looking for anything more than just kind of participation? Or is there other kinds of support they're looking for?
At this point, participation, I do think we have a couple joint things we are doing with them on the water consolidation. We have a $50,000 grant we're working with them on. So there'll be things we are participating more directly on. But as of now, it is support for the overall project and doing things in the Brennan area that they're
Okay.
looking for.
Well, I appreciate I was sorry I couldn't go. There's been different discussions in Brennan, and for me, it's a complicated area that's kind of the furthest literally away from where I live, and I've spent the least amount of time down there. So it helps me to kind of understand a little bit more of the issues. Thank you.
Yeah, Kevin and I've made a few of the Dosey Waltz Collaborative Group meetings on this subject, and we're in contact with the county grant writer and, county health, county DCD, Commissioner Brotherton. So,
Okay.
yeah, if you got any questions, feel free to.
Well, that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, it's in my
Big-
district, so I'm kind of tracking it a little
Yeah.
closer. So
Thank you.
So I don't see on the agenda a public comment period. But I'm wondering, Mr. Paisner, is there any reason why we can't allow a few minutes for public comment? Even though it's
No,
not on the agenda?
Absolutely not. I think public comment is always available.
So let me take this opportunity to invite anybody from the public who wishes to comment on any issue not on the agenda. And you will have the customary 3 minutes.
And there's no one in the room for that, Ken.
Yeah, and I'm not seeing anybody online with a hand raised, so let's move forward. The next item on the agenda, number 3, is the fiber project invitation to bid review.
And I'm going to jump in and give you the background. The PUD is ready to move forward with bidding out the underground construction for the Quilcene Discovery Bay area. The Finley Engineering, they started the process and put the original documentation together, which included the bid package. With the bid package and the written documentation, it next went to Joel Paisner, our legal counsel, and to PUD staff to do a review. At the same time, we had Moss Adams do their review for compliance. After everyone agreed that the document was ready to move forward, the next step in this process was send it to the state. The state had to agree to the documentation to move forward with the bid because they are the recipient of the money. We're a subrecipient. After the state's review was done, everyone kind of got back together, and that is the document you see here. The final step before we can go to bid is the Board of Commissioners have to approve that we're ready to move forward with bid documents and that we can advertise. This project is an estimated 11.3 million. Anything over 350,000, the board has to look at. So we are asking for the board to move forward with a motion to approve the bidding of the contract.
Hey, Kevin, quick question before you go any further. You referenced the state kind of signing off on this proposal. You know, as it stands now and they were the subrecipient or we're the subrecipient? Right. So at any rate, did they say anything about the current deadline of July where we have this working out through the end of the year? And we're hoping, I know we're still working on trying to get an extension. Did they give you any insight as to whether or not that is going to happen, or is that one part of the state that does this part, and is it the broadband office that does another, or is the broadband office able to say that, yes, this is good to go through the end of the year? Because if we get to July and they say that's the end of the project, how does that work?
We do have tentative agreement with the state and the NTIA to go with an extension till the end of the year. So that is part of what the review was done.
Okay, so they are aware that there is an issue over the deadline being extended.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, tentatively, there's an agreement.
Okay. Kevin, is there any indication as to when we will know that the agreement is approved?
We hope very shortly, Ken. Will did just jump on. If you want to jump in, Will, and talk, go ahead. I don't know if you're in a place you can.
Kevin, I don't know what preceded I don't know what point you need me to address. I just found out I can't get on my ferry. So I logged in.
Okay. What we're talking about is the extension through the state and the NTIA.
The state is putting that forward, I think yesterday through the NTIA.
So I have a question regarding the bid and that. So on the bid, it's saying the project window is completion by November 31st, 2024.
30th, isn't it?
I'm just looking
That's
at
the 31st.
November 31st, 2024. There may only be 30 days in
There is
November. I don't
only 30
know.
days.
Well, I was gonna say there's only 30 days, and mine says 30 on the copy that I have.
Okay, I'm just looking at what popped up from the website, so it might have been changed, but. So could you talk about, okay, so we've got this date in the bid document. We got this other date currently in the grant. We're going for an extension through the end of the year. Can you talk about how that all gets reconciled and maybe Joel, you know, what's the legal parameters of this if we're putting out a bid that goes through November, but we've got a grant that's deadlines in June
The
currently?
NTA and the state again have agreed to the extension. The last month though is to true up and make sure everything's been completed. So even if we would not have the extension, there's that last month where you pretty much are doing cleanup work. You're
Mhm.
not doing things. So that's why it says the 30th versus December.
We want the contractors to know they got to be done a month before
Billing,
the
that
end.
kind of stuff has to be cleaned up.
And we're proceeding as if we're going to get the extension. Everything that we're doing now is presuming we're going to get it.
The hard part was getting the state to go, the state had to petition NTIA.
Mm-hmm.
When Dan and I were down in Washington DC last time, who we met with agreed that they would give us the extension. It just had to come from the state.
Yeah.
So we're 99% comfortable that now the state has petitioned them, NTA will
Right.
grant the.
And it was complicated too by the fact that doesn't the state have to ask everybody for their extensions and make one request for everybody? So it's kind of a complicated process.
Correct. The state has 5 utilities they're working with to build out, and that was the frustrating part for me. Even if you're on schedule, why would you matter if the rest of us got an extension? But there was a process they went through, and Will and his team did a very good job of pressuring people and getting this done.
Joel's got his hand up.
Joel?
Yeah, this, and Commissioner, this is an invitation. So we're not committed to the actual timeline till we negotiate a contract, and there'll be a, performance bond and bid bond and the like that gives the PUD the protection.
Okay. And then by that time too, we may have gotten final determination. State and
Yes.
NT. Okay, so that's a good point that this is.
And we'd want to put if we don't, then we're going to want to put that in the contract. So,
Right.
So we've got time to button that up.
So again, just looking at this worst case scenario type of things, are the bidders going to look at this issue? You said we have a performance bond, right? Is there stipulations if they don't finish by this November deadline that it costs the contractors any money? What exactly will the contract look like so that they're not leery about, us not changing the date on the end of the project?
I think by federal rules, as I recall in this contract, we're required to have liquidated damages. And that's what you're talking about is if they don't finish by a date certain, then every day thereafter will impose liquidated damages. And that's in lieu of any other, damages we have. That's not the performance bond. The performance bond is to protect us in case they don't live up to the terms of the contract. So liquidated damages have to do with time and days allowed to work.
Thanks for the clarification on that. Yeah, I was curious how the
You bet.
contract would look to the contractors that are going to bid on this, whether it's going to affect the, what the bids will look like because they're taking into account this maybe a squishy deadline or the date changing in some way.
We feel this is gonna be portrayed to the contractors. This is a hard deadline. By the time we get to the point where we're sitting down with contractors with a pre-bid conference, we will know this is a hard deadline.
Yeah.
So I have a question about how this bid, this portion of the project fits into the larger scheme of things, because we've got a number of different things referenced here. We've got total project cost estimated at 21.5 million. We're saying that this portion of it is an 11.3 million portion. And then we've got 2 grants totaling 17.5 million. And then we've got something like $6 million, $7 million in the bank. I can't remember what the last count was. So I'm kind of wondering about our plan for cash flow. How do these grants work in terms of, do they send us the money up front or do we have to get reimbursed? And in any case, how does this portion of the project fit into the larger grants that we have? Because this is only a portion of the total money we got. And then what our plan is, even in the best case scenario, we're still $4 million short. So kind of what the plan is to meet cash flow, and then what the plan is to meet the total amount of the cost with financing.
So on cash flow, we have to spend the money first
Oh,
and
boy.
then we get reimbursed. The reimbursement process right now is taking approximately 2 weeks. So
Oh.
it's not a huge process.
Good.
The problem may become though, as the state broadband office gets busier and more people are putting monies towards reimbursement, then it may slow down a little bit. But right now it's approximately a 2-week time frame to get the money. So the cash flow, at least right now, we're looking better than we have for the last year on cash flow to cash flow this out. The part on the overage of the dollars, we're looking at other options. We've talked to the board last week on a possible 0.46 loan from the state to do some of the shortfalls.
The Public Works Trust Fund?
Yes.
Okay.
So we are looking at a bunch of options. We still are looking at things though to reduce our costs on this project. We have some options with our crews out there building. And this is just one example. There's places where instead of going underground, we can go overhead because of it is just solid rock for 4 or 5 spans. Looking at all the options to reduce our costs to keep it less than going here. But we do think there will be a cost overrun and we will know that after the bid.
Okay. And then the Public Works Trust Fund, could you just talk a little bit about that process? And 0.46 interest, that sounds great. What does it take to get that? How competitive is it? What would be the time frame? And then I realized too that our backstop is probably our line of credit. I suppose which we haven't had to use yet. And I'm kind of curious what the interest rate on that currently is.
So I will start out with the competitiveness. We've already received federal funding for this project, so we're not as competitive as other projects will be for the state funding. Where we may, and this is our hope, that because we're early in the process, many people aren't ready, we can put a loan package together as early as July 4th,
Mm.
or not July 4th, January
Mm,
4th,
good.
excuse me. That's going to make us competitive. Without that, we probably would not get the money, but if we can get in before the others do, we will look much better.
Okay. And then
On
Mike,
the-
is it like around 5% interest or 6% or what's line of credit right now?
That's what I was trying to log in so I could actually get today's rate, but it wants me to change my password. So it's prime plus a little bit, so it's gonna be up there and it's variable rate. So it's as we draw down the money, it will change. So it's probably up there around the 6-7% right now.
Okay.
Even with interest rates, I'm still concerned about borrowing more money, that we have to recover that. So in an open access network and all that discussion for a different time, because we're talking about the contract. So I'll jump forward a little bit further in the document here is on the topic of cost overruns, which we want to avoid. And where you have it stated here, 78, almost 79 miles of buried, and you already talked a little about changing some of this and, some of the underground. Are we really rock, no puns intended, rock solid on these numbers so that, these numbers aren't going to change of the engineering? We know all the homes or streets and roads and everything we're going down are you really confident that we aren't going to run into some places that we've missed that have to fall into this, that could trigger cost overruns?
I'm very confident with Finley's numbers, but with any large construction project like this, we are going to find some things that were either missed or we have to do a different way. But I think those will be very minor, and they won't be anything close to what would cause us to come back to the board and say, hey, we just cannot do this. We have things in place now that I think we can work through those type of issues.
And I do have one ask. I mean, I'm looking at some, the old matrix for the amount of money that we got, the different grants and the number of passings and registrations. If we could get an updated list of all that information, particularly on this grant area, in the near term, longer term, for everything that we're still planning on doing, I'd appreciate getting to see those numbers, updated numbers here at the next meeting, if possible.
I'm going to say those numbers we can have for the next meeting. One thing also that the board, I hope, takes into consideration is our cash flow. Mike and I talked just a pinch earlier today about our year-end financials that he will present to the board. And part of that will be some cash flow where we are today versus a year ago, where cash flow was a big problem. But we're not great, but we're better than we were a year ago. So, and that will be a report that Mike will have ready after they get year end done, first part of January.
So we'll look forward to that. I will entertain a motion to authorize the general manager to publish the invitation to bid for the Olympic Corridor and in-betweens fiber construction project.
So moved. I have another question or two, but I'll move that.
I'll second the motion.
So the motion has been made and seconded. Further discussion.
Yeah, Kevin, so again, this is a bid for 11.3 million. The documents we have in front of us are saying that the total grant award is 17.5 million. So, and then the total project cost is estimated at 21.5 million. So if you could talk a little bit about the difference between what is being bid and the total money we have and the total cost we expect it to be? Is it our crews are gonna do all the rest of it, or is there gonna be another bid put out for another portion of this project? I'm kind of wondering about the differences.
So really what we've done, and this was for multiple purposes, our crews are going to string all the overhead. And so that is a large portion of this project. And then we're going to bid out. This specific project is for all of the underground work in this area. It also has, the majority of the splicing is in this contract. So between what our crews do and what this contract is where the total is over the grant amount.
Got it. Yeah. So it's basically this plus our crews gets us to the total grant amount, and then the total project still could be up to 21 and a half. Hopefully
Depending on how the bids go.
sure.
I will say this, our crews are stringing fiber at the same rate a contractor is.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel very fortunate that the foresight of the board to put an extra crew on has enabled us to string a lot of fiber already before this contract is even ready to go out. So that's allowed us to set up the time frame. It's allowed us to start connecting customers sooner, and it will allow us some flexibility in the financing, because we've already paid our crews to do a lot of this work. The loan or part of it could be used to pay the PUD for work being done. And maybe we don't need to, we're not sure, depending
Okay.
on like how the additional bids come out.
And last question for me, Will, what's our forecast now on signing up and hooking up and providing service to customers, realizing it's still kind of a crystal ball?
Yeah, I wanted to clarify one more thing that you asked, Jeff, was that this bid for 11.3 is only for labor, not materials. Most of the materials we purchased, we still have to purchase a good amount of materials, but that's also in the rest of the money.
Okay.
We have 47% signed up of a goal of 60. I think we've got about 200 more customers that we need to get registered. We have not marketed to any of that area for months because we did not want to put out calls to sign up when we didn't know we were hooking people up. Every time that we've been anywhere we've been building, any work that we've been doing, we are signing up lots of folks very fast. So as soon as we start moving the underground and begin our first few connections at the end of February or the beginning of February, we do not anticipate any obstacles to reaching the 60%.
So did you
And
say
we-
beginning of February, you're looking at maybe doing service to customers?
We expect to be hooking up our first customers on the East Quilcene Peninsula or beginning of February.
Okay, cool.
So I have a couple quick questions, and you alluded to that this is about labor. And, you know, our crews are going to do some of this work moving forward regardless. My question is, if we don't get qualified bidders, because maybe Kevin can speak to this, maybe you know who the potential contractors could be and how busy other utilities are at doing this sort of thing, and, you know, what kind of a competition there's going to be for us to get this labor. If we don't get bids, what happens then? Then do we have to change do we scope this down? What's our recourse here? Because we are on some tight timelines moving forward. We can't afford, you know, to not have this not work out. It's going to stretch us out further if we don't get some viable bidders on this. So a little bit of background on how you see this playing out. I know we require a 5%, bank or certified or cashier's check for the, 5% of the bid amount, things like that. Are there anything in here you see might trigger us not getting viable bidders on this?
That's always a question, because this is going to take a large contractor to come in and do the work. One of the things that we have done that really I think is going to allow this to happen is to split the electrical aerial portion out of the underground. Prior to doing that, we would have had to have electrical approved linemen do the aerial work, which would have had to gone to the board. There would have been a whole process for that. That would have made it much more difficult for us to get the dirt work done. Because our crews are doing the work, then this allows for almost all dirt contractors to come in and bid on the project. So because of how we split it out, makes it much easier and eliminates some of the questions you're posing, Dan.
Yeah, again, I hope this all works out because I'm knowing what Plan B is going to look like if we don't get some viable bidders. What's the process turn into then?
If you don't get bidders or there's certain requirements by the feds, it could delay the bid. You may have to rebid in a different way, but right now we do not see that as a problem.
So again, I guess what I'm saying is maybe we should be somewhat have a Plan B, be thinking about Plan B at a minimum. If we don't get some viable bidders, what's the next step that we can take? So thank you.
Is there any further discussion before we vote on the motion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor of the motion to authorize the general manager to publish the invitation to bid for the Olympic Corridor and in between fiber construction project, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. And that brings us to item 4 on the agenda, which is adjournment. So thank you for your time this morning. To everyone in attendance, happy holidays, and look forward to seeing all of you in the new year.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Commissioners.
Happy holidays.
Yeah,
Thank
happy
you.
holidays.
Happy holidays.